never been. Till you point me down, oh, I knew you were trouble.
Welcome to Lab 5. In this lab, we're going to hurt the player. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our action script here. We're going to be on the enemy frame. Click that and come on down to the enemy. Make sure I'm in him. To open up the movie clip. See, this should say enemy underline 1, not enemy colon 1. If you have enemy colon 1, you're in the wrong place. And just click it open. If it's already clicked open, don't unclick it, alright? Now what we're going to do is we're going to expand this enemy hit test. See, what we're going to do is we're going to take away a life. And we're going to send the player back to the start. Here's the player back to the start. We're going to subtract a life. And then we're going to insert the player's screen. Okay. Well, this can only happen if the enemy hits the player, okay? These events are going to happen. Root minus lives says at 1 point subtract from the lives variable. Unload movie, root plus lives, just takes it there. And that'll make a life symbol disappear from the maze, okay? So you're just going to play that scream sound once. Next thing I do is I come into my actions panel and I go and add a comment to the end of my line here. Move enemy and hit maze and hurt player. Then I come down to the end of the last, right between the last two curly braces, and I'm going to add my code. So I'm going to come over here to copy code. And from line 148 to 154, I'm going to copy this. Come back in, open up my copy code. Between my last two curly braces, I control V. I put it in there. So now I check my syntax. Okay, I'm fine. So now I'm going to run my movie here. Let's test it. Yeah, there he goes. He brought him right back to the space. That's what you wanted to test. Alright. So if that didn't work, make sure your code looks just like this. And if that didn't solve it, make sure that your code is right here. See where it says enemy underscore 1? It shouldn't say enemy colon 1. It should say enemy underscore 1. Okay, we have a library asset here that we're going to enable without dropping it onto the stage. Usually you have to drop an asset on the stage in order for you to use it, especially after you've published it once. So now we're going to link the library asset. So I'm going to come down here, click down on voices. I'm going to listen to the print screen.
Ah!
I listen to the princess screen. So I'm going to link my asset. I'm going to right click here on the prints. I'm going to go down to properties. And click over here where it says export for action script. And I call this one screen with a capital S. Didn't spell this right, so it'll work in code. So I just click OK. We've taken the screen, we've given it an instance name, we've linked it to the stage, now we can use it. So we give it a new sound and we attach it here. So now what we've got to do is we've got to add new code, but we don't put it on the enemy layer. We need to close this out, so I'm going to unlock it and I'm going to minimize. And I'm going to unlock the code layer, lock this layer, come back into frame 1, open up my actions frame, come all the way down to the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my project copy code, and I'm going to grab lines 158 and 159. I come to the back to my action frame at the end. And I'm going to Control V to paste it. So now I should see this. Player new sound this, player scream. So we should hear a scream. There we go. Okay, if it didn't work, make sure you're here in your code 1 frame, not in your enemy frame. And make sure you've labeled your scream sound and whatever else you need to do. If it still didn't work, make sure that you did that you have the check mark in export for action script and properties, and that you've named it scream and spelled it right. So now that we have one enemy done, it's an easy job to copy and paste them all over the place. So you have other instances of the enemy that act the same way. So what we got to do is, we're not dragging the enemy from the library panel. We're just going to be right-click copy right on the stage here and pasting them all over the place. So copying and pasting an actual flame symbol will copy and paste all the properties of that instance. Now, one thing that's very important to do is every time you create a new enemy, you give them a new instance name. You can't have two instances running around with the same name on the same panel. Okay, now we're going to multiply the enemy. First thing I need to do is I need to come on to frame 3. I need to put a blank keyframe on here so I don't have the enemy on the blank keyframe on this frame 2. So I'm going to click Insert Blank Keyframe. I'm going to go back on this thing here and I'm going to unlock my layer. I'm going to click out in the gray area. I click my symbol here. Now I can just right-click copy and right-click paste him wherever I want him. Got a symbol here. I need to name him enemy 2. I've got him. I can't have two enemy 1 symbols on the board. So then I once again I right-click copy and I right-click paste, and I bring my new flame wherever I want that one, and once again I give it a new instance name, and I right-click paste someplace else, and I give that a new name. See, that's 4, isn't it? I do this so I have 6 or 7 of these. Next thing I do is I make sure that I have no duplicate symbols, so I'm going to shrink this a little bit. And I'm going to check out my instances. 4, 7, 2, 5, 3, 6. Okay, like I said before, you can only have one instance name, a symbol, on the screen at the same time. You can have them different frames, but you can't have two of the same names on the same frame. So in addition to making sure each of your symbols has a different instance name, you want to make sure they're spread far enough apart where they're not going to crowd out the player. Like, you don't want this symbol right on top of a player. There you go. So now we're going to make sure the game plays correctly. I'm going to go Control Enter. Move the player.
Ah!
So right now what we want to do is we want to make it when the player's life gets to 0, that he loses his life. He has to go to the lose screen. We don't have a lose screen yet. We'll do that in a little bit. So make sure I'm in the code layer. Lock my enemies layer. Click code 1 layer. Now I'm going to go my copy code. I'm going to get the next bunch of copies to code. From line 163 to 165, right click copy. Come back out to the Dragon Tamer game. Open up my actions frame. And now I'm going to go right above where it says collect items here. I have a curly brace in front of that. I'm going to click enter. So it's a curly brace between me and the code I'm going to enter. See that? I'm right between those two curly braces. And I'm going to paste the code. Check my syntax. Okay, now you're ready for running the game. Make sure your game takes you to the lose screen after your player screams and loses 3 times. So now you're ready for Lab 6. Welcome to Lab 6. In Lab 6, we're going to add a background music and a title screen for the game. A lot of times, game music will set the mood for a game, and the music from this game comes from flashkit.com. Okay. There are many different kinds of music files, and all of them are good for some things. We prefer to use MP3 files because they're compressed to smaller file sizes, makes them easy to download, easy to email and share. So we're going to look at some of the music we can play. So I'm going to come down here, open up music, and I can listen to any of these. A little bit of this, a little bit of this, this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. One of the options that we have for recording music is that we can loop our music. We can make it go over and over and over again in the background. That's what we're going to choose for this particular session. Okay, next thing I want to do is I want to go select my sound. So I'm going to minimize this. And I'm going to lock my code layer. And add me a music layer. I'm going to add me a music layer, so I click new layer. And I double click this, call this music. Now I'm going to click in the first layer here, and I'm going to come on down to my properties. I'm going to select the name of my song. And I'm going to make sure I have no effect, none effect. I want to make sure I have a sync event. Instead of having repeat here, I want loop. When the frame moves to win or lose screen, you want the music to stop. So you have to set the music to stop. So what you do is when you're on that frame, you choose your song again, and then you choose stop. If you don't do this, the music's going to keep playing, and a new loop of the song is going to start playing, and they're going to overlap each other. So you're going to want to stop it. Okay, I'm going to click on the second layer here. I'm going to stop the music on the second layer. I want to put a blank keyframe in here. So I right click, insert blank keyframe. And then here I'm going to click me the song, and I'm going to click sync, and I'm going to stop my song. Same thing in the third frame. Insert a blank keyframe, and I'm going to choose my song again, and I click my stop. So now I'm going to test my game. So here we go. Well, it definitely stopped playing on that lose screen. Okay, and it works on the win screen too, so we're all set. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a title screen. So I'm going to click in the code, frame 1 here. Oh, first I'm going to unlock all my layers. I'm going to select all my layers. So I'm going to hold down the control and just do that. So once they're all blue, you just drag them to the next frame. And that leaves you all blank keyframes. So now I can click over here in my frame 1, put my new background on, find my title screen, drag and drop it, line it up. Okay, I align it to the left and I align it to the top. Okay, in the background layer, I make sure I call this one title. Next, I'm going to pick the items layer, and I'm going to pick instructions. I'm going to drag it on here. Can you change this text? Oh, sure you can. You can change it. You can do whatever you want. It's your game. Now I'm going to go on the goal layer. And I'm going to put my play button. And I'm going to call it play button. How about that? Make sure that you change its instance name. And now you can also add the play button on the third and fourth layer. So I click on the third layer, bring my play button here, and I call it play button. And I also do that on layer 4. And I call my instance name play button. Same name, same function. And click enter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to code my play button. So I'm going to go in frame 1. I'm going to go in my copy code. And I'm going to grab this from line 169 to 172. I'm going to right click on copy, and I'm going to come over here to drag and Tamer, and I'm going to come back to my copy code, and I right click paste, and I check my syntax. Okay, then I'm going to go into frame 4, and I code my play button here. Same thing, right click paste, check my syntax. And then I go to frame 5. Where is frame 4? You're right. Click over here, I paste it in here. So now my button should work. And I can test them out. So I go Control Enter. This should take me to my first frame. It did take me to the first frame because my first frame didn't have a label. So I clicked here on the first frame and I put my label on here, level 1. _1. So now I run my code. I click here. So it takes me to the first level. So I'm going to go lose the game. try my play button. Takes me back to the game. So if your game works, you publish it. First you save it. And you publish it. That should give you 3 files to send to Miss Hadley. However, most of you are going to want to add the extra level, the challenge set. So I'll get you started off on that. First you would do the same thing you did before to add the title screen. You just move over 3 and 4. So you get 2 rows of blank spaces here. Then you would copy these first 2 layers and paste them right in that place. Then you would go and you'd make all the food items small. So you click the free transform tool, then drag it in. And then you put the same code on them as you have on the flames. You'd code the food items like you coded the flames. Then the food items would roam the new level, like the snacks would roam the new level like the food did. Of course, that would mean right here on page 7 that you'd have to code your hit test, do a little bit different, changing the wording just a tad. Then you do a few minor edits and you'd have another level of the game. Just a little challenge I thought you guys might find interesting.